GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show that's as rare as finding someone who actually returns your Tupperware. I'm your host, Kyle Reedhead, replacing Jay, who is, I think, in Mexico on vacation or at a wedding, something like that. And today is a pro takeover. We've got Martin, who is here, who is one of our Milk Road Pro researchers and lead writers over there in Pro. And we are going to be discussing the 100K Bitcoin. We finally made it, friends. We finally reached the 6-digit Bitcoin. We're going to talk about what that means for the crypto industry, what it took to get us here, and what we think happens next. So we'll touch into some of the altcoins, ETH, Solana, and maybe some stuff around the strategic Bitcoin reserve. What do we expect to happen now that we've hit 100K? We are going to dive into that and give you guys some alpha from myself and from Martin. Before we get into that, though, let's take a quick second to hear from our sponsors who make the show possible.
Meanwhile is the world's first licensed and regulated life insurance company built for the Bitcoin economy. They do everything in BTC. You pay in BTC, they pay claims to your family in BTC. You take out policy loans entirely in BTC when you need liquidity. Protect your family from life's uncertainty and a broken financial system. Build intergenerational Bitcoin wealth while the cost of living skyrockets in dollar terms. Plus, get all the tax and legal benefits of life insurance now in Bitcoin. Visit milkroad.com/meanwhile to join the waitlist and get early access to the world's first Bitcoin life insurance.
All right, we are back. And Martin, welcome to the show once again. It's good to have you here. We're celebrating. This is a big day. We're at 100K. It happened late last night, EST. I think it was around like 9 or 10 p.m. I was on my couch watching. Martin, you were probably sleeping because you're in Europe. Were you sleeping when this happened?
Yeah, I was.
Exciting
times.
Unfortunate for the Europeans, they didn't get to experience it. It kind of happened out of nowhere, to be honest. We were sitting at like, I don't know, 98, 97. All of a sudden it just ripped. And it went up all the way to about 104, I believe. And now we're sitting 102,416 currently in the charts. But it's a big moment, I think, for the industry, for us to hit 100K. It's something that we've talked about and memed for a really long time. And it took a lot to get us here. This image that comes up here is quite interesting. I have it on the screen right now, which is basically looking at all the different crashes and failures and struggles we had to go through to get to this point. I mean, we had the Mt. Gox crash back in, was that 2014? We had a China ban. We've had an ICO crash back in 2017. We had the pandemic crash back in 2020. We had the FTX crash, the Terra Luna crash, and so many more things that happened where people were calling Bitcoin dead, et cetera. Bitcoin has gone down like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% drawdown so many times in the last, about 15 years. And finally today, or yesterday, we have hit our 100K, which is pretty wild. This one picture was quite interesting, which is just looking at the bullet at Trump's head, because this could have really changed things. We all kind of forget about this. What is it, just a couple months ago that the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. If that happened, like what was this, like a millimeter from hitting him, it hit his ear. If it would have hit him though and actually killed him, we would have had a civil war and probably not had 100K Bitcoin, in my opinion. I don't know, but it's pretty wild what we had to get through to get here. What do you think of this, Martin? And where do you think, what does this mean for the industry? Do things change here? Like, what are kind of your thoughts as we hit 100K?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were signs before that Bitcoin is eventually going to hit these 100K levels. And now with Trump winning the election, everyone must be bullish. Like, there is no way that you are not bullish with Trump being president, and like everything he says, everything he does, everything he's gonna suggest probably, and also what he's gonna do, it all is like signaling, okay, crypto is here to stay. Now it's very legit business, and they are gonna put a green light and make sure that all the legislation and regulation around crypto is like clear, and everyone is safe to work in crypto, and there are no debanked or any stuff like that. So I can't be more bullish. What a journey, but we are here. This is the best time to be in crypto, and I'm so excited to what's coming next.
Yeah, and congrats to all the listeners that are here today. I don't know, but I'm assuming many of you have been around for a long time. Maybe you bought Bitcoin back at 20K, or maybe it was 69K at the top of last cycle. It doesn't matter where you bought it. As long as you bought Bitcoin, you are pretty much up today, which is pretty sweet. But for those who have been through multiple cycles and a lot of these crashes, pat yourself on the back. It's a big achievement. It's pretty cool. I think the other thing that comes from this, like, yeah, a lot of this came from Trump. Once Trump was winning, it was like, okay, this is inevitable. We're definitely going 100K. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when at this point. It came a lot faster than I thought. Earlier, I think my predictions for 2024 were that we were going to beat all-time highs. I didn't think we'd get to 100K in 2024. I thought this was a 2025 thing, but I guess we're front running a lot of the growth due to Trump. When I think about like what happens now, there's sort of a couple scenarios. Like, one, you got to think about, does Trump actually do this strategic reserve for Bitcoin? If that happens, I think everything we think about crypto changes. You can screw your 4-year cycles. You can screw the altcoin index and the Bitcoin dominance. Like, Bitcoin actually dominates in that world, and everything else doesn't really matter for a little bit, I think. And you can move your charts and your TA. None of that stuff actually matters. Trump comes in, January 20. Does he really do that right off the bat? Does he get some of this crypto regulation in right off the bat? I'm not sure. I think crypto regulation, yes. I don't know about the Bitcoin reserve. Martin, what's your thoughts on the Bitcoin reserve? Is that what's going to, and actually before I ask you that question, we've had all these like key moments that we had to hit, right? It was like the Bitcoin ETF, right? And that was our big run up. Then it was like, okay, Trump winning, that's our big run up. 100K was our big meme for, I don't know, years and years and years. Outside of the Bitcoin reserve, what's left, right? Like, I guess there's corporates buying, which is currently happening, but like, we don't really have that big next step. I don't know what the big like thing is that we're all waiting for now. Other than, to me, it's probably that Bitcoin reserve. What do you think? And do you think that's actually going to happen?
Yeah, I feel we are reaching the point where like there is not many things that are still out there that can kind of catapult the price of Bitcoin to go up. Like, it's already 2 trillion asset at this point, and like pretty much corporations, I'm pretty sure they are all looking at the Bitcoin right now and trying to figure out whether they should add it on their balance sheets or not. And like, Michael Saylor was presenting last week or this week, I don't remember, to Microsoft. And right. I think this is what we are going to see. And the question about if Bitcoin will be a strategic asset for US, I don't know. I don't really have any opinion here, but yeah, what do you think?
I definitely don't think it happens in 2025, like a lot of people are saying. I think there's just no way. I'm not even sure that it happens in the next couple years. And I think there's a clear reason of why this doesn't happen. And I think what people don't understand is, one, it's going to be really hard to like actually pass and get through, right? Trump has never actually said he was going to do this. This is more like Loomis and some other, like, I think they're Senates or Congress people that have talked about it. And they're the ones that are trying to put this bill through. It's never really Trump has said he's actually going to do this. But more, I actually just don't think the U.S. can really do it, because the U.S. is, their dollar is the global reserve currency. And when you are a country or a government and you have a reserve asset for your currency, you do that when you're worried about your currency failing, right? Or that something could go wrong with your currency. So like, other nations do this. The US doesn't do this because it is the global reserve. And so if all of a sudden they announce a Bitcoin reserve currency, what they're saying is, we are unsure if our dollar is going to be safe and we need to back it with something else. And so I can't see the Fed doing that and the Treasury doing that and like putting that out there, because what does that do for the dollar? Like, probably not really good things. And so I just, I can't see them actually pulling trigger on that. And so I think I give it a very low probability. Like, I would say we're like under 10% chance that happens in 2025. And then like maybe that percent goes up a little bit higher in 2026. I think on Polymarket right now, it's like there's like a 25% chance it happens in the first 100 days of Trump's presidency. And so we'll see. I don't know. They got the election right, but I can't see them actually doing this. I do think what they'll do is announce that they're not going to sell the Bitcoin that they've confiscated. They've got like 200,000 or something like that Bitcoin. And I think they'll announce that they won't sell it. I don't think it'll be in the terms of a strategic reserve. But yeah, that's my take. Anything you would add?
It feels like, what can be more than US considering to add Bitcoin is their strategic reserve asset. Like, it's the end game. There is nothing more that you can ask for. Like, everyone's using Bitcoin today. Now corporations, and now we are talking about states. It's the journey the Bitcoin went through, and the whole crypto, from using Bitcoin as a money on some black markets, and now we are at this point, and it's just insane.
Yeah. What I do see of the 100K thing though is we always said that when 100K hits, this is when retail comes back in. Now we kind of front ran that with Trump winning. Retail really came back in the last 3 to 4 weeks. I think I talked about this the other day on the podcast. But we have just seen insane numbers at Milk Road. I know like Phantom Wallet and all these other things have seen insane numbers. I think Coinbase is just going to have double, triple, quadruple active users when they come out with their Q4 earnings next year. But what I see is like when 100K hits, it's going to be all over mainstream. So media is going to pick this up today. Like we're recording this, the morning after we had 100K. I think it's going to be all over. I was going to say the newspapers, but who reads the newspapers anymore? But it's going to be everywhere. So boomers will hear about it. Mainstream people are going to hear about it. And I think that this, run of retail coming in over the last few weeks is only going to escalate even further now. And I think that this is going to create even more of a bit of craziness that we're going to see in Bitcoin. Sure, I think Bitcoin continues to go up here, but I think this is going to drive a lot of capital into the altcoins as well. I think like we've already seen XRP and all these kind of dino coins, we called it, going up. I think that actually might continue here. I think Ethereum, Solana are going to do really well. I think the whole industry is going to kind of level up here because retail is about to flood back in. And probably institutions too. Like I would bet ETF flows start to pick up even further here, both on Bitcoin and ETH. I think a lot of capital is going to come in real quick. And December is going to be a pretty crazy month. And then I'm a little bit unsure of what happens after that. January, February seems a little bit dicey, but I think we're going to get a little bit in front of our skis here. What's your expectations?
Yeah, I agree. I think we can hit like maybe 110, 120, and then expect some correction. And so like Q1 next year, probably we are going to see some, 20, 30% correction. And then there'll be another leg up and we will pass the all-time highs again. But like people keep asking if we are in different cycle this time, or is it going to be the same as always? And so far, it feels like it's going to be the same as always. Like Bitcoin leads the way. Now Bitcoin was kind of around 100K for some time, but altcoins started to pump finally. So it all feels like very similarly to previous cycles. Yeah.
It's so weird. We were calling, like when we get to 100K, we're going to start receiving messages from like old people or old friends or whatever. I literally got a message yesterday from a guy that I met when I was in Brazil earlier this year. Haven't talked to him for 6-7 months. What up, Bruno? In case you are watching this, I'm pretty sure you don't. But he texted me and was like, "Hey, man, long time no see, long time no talk. I want to get some Bitcoin. What's the best way for me to buy it?" And I hadn't talked to him in 6 months. And so I just kind of laughed and I was like, I knew this was going to happen. And it was like, it happened when Bitcoin hit 99K. And I was like, this is crazy. So it really does feel like the same thing. Now, do you think, so you said Bitcoin probably goes up. Do you think we go further? Like, is Bitcoin dominance top now and we're going to go full on, banana zone and into everything else? Or do you think Bitcoin, because it reached 100K, still has some strength in it because of that sort of meme effect and it's going to draw in more people?
No, I think Bitcoin dominance stopped. And now, we are gonna see more flows into altcoins. I feel like 100K is kind of psychological level for many people, and now basically everyone is already in profits. So 100K, maybe now when all the people like being in profits and see all the altcoins starting to pump, they all start moving to like more riskier assets. So.
Yeah.
Well, I don't expect Bitcoin to, it's still gonna do well this cycle, right? Obviously, like no doubts. But I think altcoins will outperform from here.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we've been wrong on that for a while, to be honest. Well, at least we said ETH would outperform. We never really said Bitcoin dominance necessarily. But it does. I mean, I have it up the chart on the screen here for those that are listening. You might want to just check out. We got a bunch of charts here, but Bitcoin dominance top technically back in November. Let me go to the daily and we can see actually what day that was, because it's been weeks now that we have potentially topped out. Looks like it was November 21st. It looks like Bitcoin dominance topped out at almost 61.5%, at least when you're looking at TradingView. It's currently sitting at 56. It's had a bit of a bounce back here as it went to 100K. It went all the way down to 54.5, and now it's up a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I think it's probably top tier. I think as retail comes in and they look and they see the 6-digit number of 100K, I don't think many of them are going to want to buy that. They're like, okay, this thing looks like it's pretty expensive at this point. And I know, like, if you know anything about investing, it doesn't really matter. But a lot of people coming in that are new have no idea. And so I kind of think that they're going to head the other way. The other one I look at here, so Bitcoin dominance looks, I mean, that's just such a huge drop. And every time we've had such a massive drop like that previously, it's like, it's been the top, right? And so, like, feels to me like we're probably there. You can see it in the last couple of cycles. It looks like the beginning of that drop. We'll see what happens, but feels like that. The other one you look at, we're hitting some critical points for ETH that I think are very interesting in terms of the chart anyway. And we've started to see some bullish momentum in ETH recently too. And it kind of lines up well with this, with Bitcoin hitting 100K. But look at this chart here. This is ETH BTC. And you can just see the, let me just go to the weekly. It'll be easier to see. But if you kind of draw a line from the bottom of last cycle to now, we actually tapped that right around the time that Bitcoin dominance topped. And we've sort of like jumped off of it. And now ETH is looking quite strong. And so I kind of think we might have finally hit the bottom. Although I think the last time I said this was like, I think I thought this when the Bitcoin ETF went live last, was that in February or March or something like that. So I was way off then, but I know this chart looks pretty interesting here. And then the other thing you can look at here on ETH that's interesting is this huge wedge from the top of last cycle. Both Bitcoin and Solana have already broken through that wedge. And when they did, they just jumped like crazy. ETH is exactly at it. And it looks like it's ready or wanting to break through. Whether it does it right away, I don't know. But it's looking really strong here. And I think it's about to have its moment. Whenever it breaks through this like 3,900 or gets like, let's say 4,000, I think ETH has a bit of a moment. What's your thoughts short term? ETH having a moment or continues to lag?
Well, after I saw all the people concentrated on Ethereum conference in Bangkok and all the talks that sparked from that conference. So yeah, all the talent, all the people, all PhDs, like everyone's doing a lot of things today to kind of figure out how to solve the Ethereum's problems, because it's very far from being perfect. So this new group of people, these community contributors trying to solve and help Ethereum to grow from here and thrive, that's what makes me like really bullish on Ethereum, because yeah, that's just something you cannot create or copy paste or something. That's something you need to build over the years. And then when you are at the hard times, like difficult times for ETH, as we have been this whole year pretty much, and you see the community still sticking to the values and trying to help Ethereum to grow, that's super bullish.
I'm super bullish on ETH here as kind of a catch-up trade, to be honest. As I showed on this chart, like when you break through this, it's a big move. Like I can show you it with like Solana, Bitcoin did it. I don't have it drawn on Bitcoin, but whenever they break through these things, it's usually a big jump. I mean, if you look at the flows of the ETH ETFs, just the last 4 days, 332 million, 24 million, million, 132, 167, right? Like these are pretty big numbers. And before that, we had 90 and 40 and 91. Like we've been on a red day in week and a half, and I think this only continues. So I mean, that to me is pretty bullish. I also think that one, as I said, I think Coinbase is going to be one of the biggest winners here. A lot of new people coming in there, and Coinbase is sending more people over to Base. And I just think that continues. And so I think a narrative finally picks up there. Narratives just happen based off price. You just need price to go up, and then a narrative happens. It's not the other way around. And so I think once ETH has its move, it'll catch a narrative. That'll bring its momentum. I just see no way that doesn't happen here. But I mean, look, you never know. It's lagged for a while, so we could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some good movements here in ETH. And I think it'll probably happen here in December. Again, of course, we'll have a pullback, and ETH will get wrecked just like everything else. But I still see it being very strong this cycle.
Do you see anything specific that caused that Ethereum price going up finally, or is it just because it was lagging all the time, so now it's just catching up? Basically?
I mean, flow is picking up in the ETF. I think it's a lot of people just catching up. But here's what I think is the bull case for Ethereum and DeFi in general, actually, which we haven't really talked about yet. Trump winning the election, I think there's a couple really big winners from this. One was obviously Bitcoin, people speculating on the strategic reserve and everything we talked about there. So that's already kind of had its win from that and will continue to. I think Coinbase has been a massive winner, which I've talked about a ton. And Coinbase has already seen some pretty big numbers since Trump has won as well. The reason for that, American company that's kind of has its hands in everything in crypto and works with all the TradFi companies, building products for all the TradFi companies. Same with works with all the crypto companies, building products for all the crypto companies. It's just like, it's probably the best, smartest team in all of crypto. And it's finally like been unleashed because of Trump once regulation goes through. So I think like so much upside for Coinbase, which we can talk about that in a second. But I think the other thing is DeFi. The big thing that regulation is going to do when Trump comes in is allow institutions to start using crypto, right? And right now, I mean, there's a bunch of retail coming in, and a lot of that is to do speculation. That's all fine, Danny. Even institutions are doing that as well. But when I think about like the big use cases that are going to happen, every time a new tech gets adopted in our world, it's always corporations that jump into it first. You think about the internet and computers, who was using that first? It was companies, right? Like you never used a computer unless you were at school and you happen to have that in your schools. We did. I don't know about every country, or you were working. You worked at a finance company or a company that was trying to stay ahead, right? Because they can save costs so they can increase revenue. Cell phones, when they came out, everyone had a BlackBerry. That was all companies first. This happens with every single technology. And I think who's going to be the ones that really adopt crypto first? It's going to be companies. And because it saves them a shit ton of money, whether it's paying employees or managing their balance sheets or accepting payments, et cetera, especially using stablecoins. Like even us at Milk Road, we are like rushing in to putting more of our assets on chain because it's such a smarter move. We can get yield. It saves us so much money to pay our employees around the world. And so I think it's going to be corporates that really, really adopt this thing, not people. I know we're all waiting for these big consumer apps, and I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be, the adoption is going to come from corporations. The thing is, they weren't allowed. And I think Trump's going to finally allow that. And I think we're really going to basically reboot the financial system. And it's going to start with corporations. And I think that's going to start next year, as long as Trump actually gets these regulations going through early on, which I feel like he does in his like first 100-day sprint that they do. I don't think the strategic Bitcoin reserve happens, but I do think he starts to allow corporations like to know, can they hold stable coins? Can they use DeFi products, et cetera? And what are all the protocols that are best suited for all these corporations when they decide to finally come and bring their treasuries on chain and hold stable coins and like, I don't know, do financial services? It's Ethereum DeFi, right? And so I think your Aves, your Makers, your Lidos, et cetera, they're going to be just the biggest players from this. And I think they're going to do extremely well. And then, of course, that means Ethereum's going to do well because all these players are on Ethereum main chain, but then also over on, like, let's say Base, for example. Obviously, I'm still bullish Solana. I think it still outperforms because it's just smaller, but I don't think the institutions are going to come in and start to use Solana DeFi. I really don't. And so I think that's going to be the big catalyst for Ethereum next year, is actually DeFi getting adopted by institutions. And I think that all comes because of regulation finally. So I just think when we get this regulation that everyone's all pumped about and all these tokens are pumping because of regulation, but like, where's the adoption really going to happen when that occurs? I don't see, it's not like DePIN or AI. Like there's nothing holding back those things right now, really. It's just kind of the DeFi type stuff, right? It's institutions with all the capital not being able to buy. And once they can, I can't see how Ethereum doesn't absolutely crush from that, along with Coinbase, because obviously Coinbase is really integrated to Ethereum and integrated with all these corporation institutions that are about to come in on chain. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree. I think we are entering the golden age of crypto. We have infrastructure in place. We have fast, cheap blockchains where developers can build useful apps for people. We also have companies interested in building on the blockchains, just as you were saying. And now we also have like crypto-friendly regulations and non-hostile government, which is obviously very positive for everyone, right? So I guess we have everything in place we need for DeFi to thrive finally. And it's here. So yeah, I think 2025 will be a huge year for DeFi.
The DeFi renaissance, I think that's the thing to look out for. Coinbase, I can be more bullish on. I really think that when these earnings, I think their earnings report comes out February of next year. And I think they're going to show a double, triple, quadruple in revenue quarter over quarter, which like doesn't really ever happen on Wall Street. But with a combination of Trump winning plus Bitcoin hitting 100K, I think there's so much retail about to come in. And I'm seeing a ton of stories on this in our Discord too, of like Uber drivers, taxi drivers, etc., are all coming in. And I think Coinbase last cycle topped at around 112 like verified users, which is crazy. It's like a third of the US. And then like their actives went down to like 6 million or something. I think they're sitting around 8 or 10 in the last earnings report. There's no way that doesn't go up to like 20 million, maybe even more of active users. And then because the prices are up so high, their volumes are going to be so much higher, which means their fees are going to be so much higher in their revenue. Plus you got Base over there just crushing. Like, I don't know, man. I think Coinbase is going to be just one of the best performing stocks. And I think it's one of the big stories of 2025, along with this DeFi renaissance and the like adoption of institutions starting to use crypto and DeFi. And then the one cherry on top I think that happens is I think Coin, the token or the stock is going to be launched on Base, and you're going to be able to buy the stock on chain, which is going to be really cool. That's at least my hope. But we'll see. But I know everyone's probably sitting here thinking, well, what about Solana, right? Solana's been the big thing over the last year. We've talked about a ton. We obviously own a ton of Solana. We've been all over it. And it's interesting. I've had a bunch of people in our pro Discord asking the question, well, should I still hold Solana or should I be moving all my capital over to like Ethereum or to Bitcoin? And they're asking that because like, what have we had now? 2 weeks of chop on Solana. That doesn't happen very often, does it? Oops, not the 1 minute. I don't want to go to that chart. I'm pulling up the Solana chart here, and we reached an all-time high back in November. Oh, sorry, not sharing screen. Right, let me pop that open here. Not that one. Here. So I got Solana up. We hit all-time high back November 22nd, and then we've kind of just been like down or chopping ever since. And it's funny. I've had so many messages of like, okay, is Solana's time done? Should I sell it? Should I move on to something else? I'm like, what? We're like barely above all-time highs from last cycle, and you guys already want to sell? Like this is crazy. I think Solana still continues to do very well. Meme coins aren't going anywhere. Solana's still building like amazing stuff with DeFi and other things that they're doing. And so like, I don't see that going anywhere. I just think people want to jump from one thing to the next, right? And I think the thing that everyone here needs to understand is like, you gotta just chill. Like this is the time to just sit in your hands and don't move it. If you've been holding Sol and ETH, etc., if you try to jump around because other things are pumping, you're just going to get completely wrecked. You do not want to do this. Sol will have its moment. Just like let ETH have a moment or let Bitcoin have its moment, whatever. Sol will just kind of wind up, get ready. And all of a sudden Sol's going to just absolutely crush it. But like they don't all go up in big amounts at the exact same time. Flow kind of moves. And if you try to chase that, you miss all the pumps. So instead, this is why you kind of diversify. You hold it and you just wait, right? We're nowhere near the end of the cycle yet. Solana still has plenty of room to go. And so you just don't try to chase the narratives. You're just always going to get wrecked. What do you think? You think Sol still has a big moment here, or is it kind of tapped out?
Yeah, I mean, once there are no green candles every other day, people are starting like, oh, is it still, bullish, or should I, reallocate or something? Like, just as you said, just chill out, be patient, let others people to learn about Solana, buy this coin too. And like Solana will do well. And this is not high. I'm pretty sure about that. So like if we see just a couple of days going sideways or 10% decline, it's nothing. Like
buy more.
Yeah.
Buy more. You got to remember, ETFs are coming for Solana, and like I think I saw Grayscale is now has put in and applied to convert they have like a Solana trust. They're going to convert it into the ETF. So there's I think 4 or 5 now applicants for the Solana ETF. The first one, if they actually just get approval right away, is in February. So or February or January, I can't remember. But so we'll see what happens here. Obviously, we have a new SEC chair coming in who is crypto friendly. We have Trump, who's going to be a president by then. I don't see a reason why these things don't get approved. Now, the issue was like they don't have a futures and they're not on the CME, and so like you need 2 or 3 years or whatever for that to happen. That's what everyone's always said. Solana doesn't have that yet, but like I don't think the SEC is going to give a shit about that. I think they're just going to approve a bunch of these things, which means like by February, that's 2 months from now, less than 60 days, we could have, I think it's actually by January, but 60 days, we could have a Solana ETF. And imagine you're getting millions of flows into Solana now on a daily basis. Like the thing's only worth 100 billion. Like this thing's got a lot of room to run if that's the case. So I see no reason why this thing slows down.
Do you think it can somehow damage Ethereum because of there won't be just one smart contract blockchain ETF existing at the
Damage?
time? And
like, do you mean take from its? I mean, like, look, it's going to definitely take from its market share. I think that's what all these blockchains are doing. But I think when you look into it and you really understand what's happening here with Ethereum and Solana, these smart contract platforms, like they're very different things. What Ethereum's trying to accomplish, what Solana's trying to accomplish, and I think that a lot of the institutions are going to understand that. I think they're going to see the route that Ethereum's taking. They're not on crypto Twitter, right? Like the only issue we have had with Twitter or with ETH right now is just people thinking that, you know, on crypto Twitter, thinking that Ethereum is not scaling or that it's doing this and wrong and doesn't burn enough. And it's like, it's just all noise. And I don't think these institutions give a shit about that. And they're not on crypto Twitter. And so I think they're going to continue to bid this thing. I actually think Solana might lack a little bit on the ETF side of things because I don't know that institutions there's that much demand for it. At least that's what a lot of people I've heard say that are in the institutional world. So obviously there'll be some flows. It's a good thing. And they don't have the outflows like Ethereum and Bitcoin had when they first launched. So it's going to be a net good thing, I would assume, for Solana. But either way, that's going to drive a narrative. And so Solana's going to do really well there. And yeah, that takes some capital from ETH. But I think you guys got to remember, we're still so freaking early. Like we're a $3.5 trillion, what are we, 3.6 trillion market cap now. Okay, so that's cool. But I think we're going to 10 trillion in the next 9 months. Like that's crazy. And so it's okay if these assets are kind of eating some share from the others because there's so much more room to grow this pie that like I really don't think it matters all that much. Yeah, that's my opinion there. All right, last kind of like look here. Let's just talk about short term what's going to happen. We're sitting at like an 84 on the altcoin season index. Obviously, things are pumping and getting a little bit crazy. You brought up, Martin, that I think the funding rates are getting quite high. Walk me through what you're kind of looking at here in the short term.
Yeah, funding rates, you can read them as price for having leverage in the markets pretty much. So if Bitcoin is at all-time highs, people are bullish, so they open leverage trades up. So they are willing to pay 70% per year for having open these open leverage positions. That's pretty big number, and we don't see that often, 70% API. So this tells me that the market is really bullish right now, and it won't last forever, you know? So yeah, we are going through some kind of small peaks in the cycle, and now like all the traders are really, really bullish on the markets. So as I said, I don't know where the price are going, maybe a couple more thousand for Bitcoin up, but then some corrections needs to happen. Yeah. And also, by the way, this will result in huge yields for Athena. So if some people hold Athena stablecoin, I'm very curious to see the next week yield for users of Athena stablecoin.
I mean, like next year, once we get regulation around stablecoins, like how are corporations not going to want to come in and hold Athena stablecoin or Makers? I think you said Makers just moved up to 12.5% APY. You have Athena's currently sitting at 27%. Remember, interest rates in the US, like you could get 5%. Now that's going down and will probably continue to go down. Like, I'm not saying all that capital, there's trillions of dollars in treasuries, by the way, in the US. Now that capital is not all going to come in to stablecoins, but you bet like corporations that can do this and are allowed to do this, why would they not do this? Do you know what I mean? And so to me, this just continues to be this DeFi renaissance that we talked about. Like, how is this not going to be what they do? Now, I know there's still some fear around Terra Luna from last cycle, but I think, Maker is less of a scary thing. And Athena, institutions kind of get the carry trade that Athena's doing. So I think that once you do your due diligence, you realize this is not the next Terra Luna. To me, there's just no way that a lot of capital doesn't come in. And I mean, stablecoins already at all-time highs, getting close to 200 billion. Yeah, everything's looking really, really good here for 2025. As Martin and I both said, probably a pullback coming in the next little bit. By the way, I talked about this 2 episodes ago, and there was a bunch of comments of like, oh, I'm bearish and like, I want the 2020 days back. And it's like, guys, you want to hear bearish stuff when things are getting really bullish, because if things are getting really bullish and I come on here and Martin and I just talk about how you should FOMO into everything and be super bullish, that's when you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fuck this up. And so hearing the bear side of like, hey, we're probably going to pull backs, the risk rewards maybe not as good anymore. This kind of helps you stay level headed and not make mistakes. Cause like, yeah, we're in an exciting time. We think a lot of good is happening here. But it's all about your mindset at this point. If you start trading and trying to overcomplicate things, it's when you make mistakes. If you just sit in your hands, you do nothing, you let the pullback happen, you know it's coming, and you let it recover, like everything's going to be okay. Right. And so at this point, it's the rest of this game for the next 9 months is it's all mental. It's all your mental. And if you can control your brain up here, you will do well this cycle. If you can't control this brain, you will get wrecked. I don't know if you saw, Martin, but a bunch of people were selling their Bitcoin and their ETH and putting it into Hawk token yesterday, which proceeded to go down like 90%. And I just was like, man, you have Bitcoin passing 100K, and there's a bunch of people foaming money into the Hawk Tua meme coin and just getting completely rugged and wrecked. And what a waste of capital. I just don't understand it. Anyway, just thought I'd bring that one up. Martin, any final words, any final suggestions or recommendations to the listeners?
I would say be patient, have conviction in your holdings. If you don't have conviction, and then you should probably reevaluate your thesis and your portfolio, because investing should be boring, and it's not about to be fun or feel emotions. It should be very boring, and this is exactly the time when you will be tempted many times to jump into this new narrative thing or that token there. But if you do it, then you'll mess it up. And so I'll say, make sure you have your portfolio well diversified, you have conviction in your holdings, and be patient and wait until macro starts to get like overheated and we are getting closer to fall winter, as we call it in the macro seasons, and then it's your time to sell, take some profits from the table, and be happy.
I like the line of investing should be boring. Go have fun, and if you want to go have fun and gamble and play around meme coins, do it with a small percent, and then let your investments be boring, and that's where you're really going to make money, and do that long term. So great advice, Martin. Great to have you back on the show. I'm glad we got to join here and have a pro takeover. Congrats to everyone who is in Bitcoin and got to experience the 100K, 6 digits. It's a big deal. It's exciting stuff. And look, if you want to help us, you can help us grow our show. Please leave us 5 stars on the podcast, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or the podcast channel, and give us a like or comment, whatever you can do. Do that because the engagement helps us grow. We want to grow and be the #1 show during this bull market. So please help us do that. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining, and have a wicked awesome day.
Thank you. Good luck, guys.
As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.